And so I think that really translates well to your adult life, and especially in careers where pretty much all of us are working as part of a team, whether leading it, is just a lower member of the team. And so I think just building those skills early and often and growing through that is just really beneficial for later in life.
All right, we are live again. This is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show Leadership Series, where we highlight the careers of leaders in the Parks and Rec community. So superintendents, directors, athletic directors, aquatics directors, assistant directors, just people that are kind of leading the charge in Parks and Rec community. Maybe you've been at this for many years. This show runs every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 12 noon Eastern. But then we also have a whole family of shows, all centered on Parks and Recreation. Whether it's youth sports on Thursday, which is immediately following this show, or our latest edition, Aquatics Life with Wesley King on Fridays, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. So here we are, diligently trying to build a full 24/7 media network that just focuses on Parks and Rec nationwide with all the cool stories and stuff that's going on. Today we have a special guest, Justin Swaney from Carrollton, Texas, which is where my daughter used to live. So very familiar with that Dallas metro area. It's exploding. There's a lot of great stuff going on in the Parks and Rec community. And he has a lot to say about esports. He's the superintendent over there. So there's a lot of great conversation coming on around that. So just wanted to encourage everybody to tune in, not just to, this is the flagship show, the one that started it all, the leadership series, but as per the request of the Parks and Rec professionals across America, wouldn't it be great if we had a show about aquatics? And so it's taken us about a year to build up the momentum and find somebody like Wesley King that could help us host a Friday show centered on aquatics. That being said, if you have an aquatics director or an aquatics facility, please reach out to me. We would love to have them as a guest on the aquatics show every Friday and just highlight how you run your aquatic centers, lessons you've learned, that kind of stuff, and share the wisdom with the rest of the country trying to run their own aquatic center. And the same can be said for if you're with MWR and the military, Parks and Recreation. We have a Tuesday show dedicated to that. If you're an athletics director working with youth sports and programming around sports, would love to have you on our Thursday show, the Youth Sports Mastery Show. And so as you'll see, we're trying to build out a community around all the different parts of Parks and Rec. And so aspirationally, eventually, we would have something on programming on senior centers. And so once a week, we would have a weekly show about senior centers. If you also know somebody that might be a great person to help us co-create content similar to what you see Wesley King and Dave Ramirez and Aaron Locks helping us to create that content for those parts of Parks and Rec, please help us find those people that maybe are already producing a little monthly podcast, but would like our help in distributing and creating and that kind of stuff, kind of work with us. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to play the promo that kind of explains it all. Something that our very talented video editor, Chris, made for us, followed by one of our major sponsors, Outdoor Link. So just as you have a smart home, and a lot of us have these lights that we can control from our cell phones, imagine if you control your whole city from your cell phone or from a laptop or from a desktop, and you can control your lights, your bathroom door locks, your splash pads, anything that runs on electricity. You can connect it to a smart device and program it to go off and on when you want. And that way you're not accidentally leaving lights on a late Sunday night and you don't know about it until your neighbor calls and says, hey, y'all left the lights on, and you got to go send somebody out there. So if that's the problem that you have and you'd like to learn more about how you can work with Outdoor Link, hit me up on LinkedIn and I'll connect you with Tasha and Dave and that talented team over there that's pretty much at every state association event. So you should be able to see them. Hopefully the name's getting out there because they have a great solution to a very common problem in Parks and Recreation. So Joby, with that being said, why don't you go ahead and play those two promos, and when we come back, we'll start our conversation with Justin.
Welcome to DPRS Media Network, the voice of Parks and Recreation professionals, where leadership grows, facilities thrive, and communities connect. Leadership Series, insights from the leaders shaping our industry. Facility maintenance, the backbone of safe and sustainable spaces. Young Professionals Network, empowering the next generation of Parks and Rec leaders. The Rec Room, real conversations, real stories, real impact. Youth Sports Mastery, elevating the game for athletes and communities. Smart Parks Forward, innovation driving the future of recreation. On the front line, honoring those who serve our communities every day. Athletes Commute, the journey behind the performance. The Aquatics Life, everything aquatics, safety, staffing, sustainability. Safe Spaces and Green Spaces, a show exploring the connection between nature and mental well-being. And we don't just tell the stories, we show up where it happens. From local gatherings to national parks and recreation conferences, DPRS Media Network is on the ground, capturing conversations, highlighting innovation, and amplifying the voices shaping our industry's future. DPRS Media Network, connecting parks, empowering people, inspiring communities.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Update digital displays in real time. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. And even run community or sponsorship campaigns on digital screens. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the daily Parks and Rec show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
All right, let's go ahead and bring Justin up. Now, welcome to the show, Justin. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Craig. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I think you'll have some pretty decent weather now in Texas. It's not the 100 degrees that's coming your way and you're kind of out of the ice falling out the sky.
Yeah, we already had some 90s a little bit and it's 80 or so outside. Yeah, it's really nice right now.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, today's show is going to be a lot about, since you're the superintendent, so we'll talk a lot about operations and maybe even how you kind of manage these projects if you're involved in that at all. But I really like to talk a lot about esports, and she'll have 2 esports centers, so we'll get into that. But before we go there, I'd like to kind of dig a little into your journey into Parks and Recreation. So were you involved in Parks and Recreation as a young child, or what was your first exposure to it?
Yeah, growing up where I did in Oklahoma, I don't know that I knew that the city or Parks and Recreation was done by them. It was always through the YMCA or other local sports organizations. Obviously, we had some wonderful parks in my hometown that I definitely spent a lot of time in. And so, yeah, I think I always liked being outdoors, playing sports, things like that kind of got me my first kind of exposure to Parks and Recreation. And definitely didn't know it was a career at that time.
Yeah. And what sports did you play?
A little bit of everything. I always seemed to be playing something year round. I decided at an early age that my just too much running for soccer, so gave that up at about 6.
Yeah,
and then pivoted into baseball. Was always my my love, but eventually the skills ran out. But so I played football and. But yeah, a little bit of everything. Golf now is really what I golf and paddle sports are kind of what I do.
Oh, nice.
Nowadays.
You know, one of the hot topics in youth sports and rec sports is how, we're starting to notice as an industry that it's not all about the hyper competitive training the next D1 athlete, but that the the massive community of little young athletes coming in are not going to maybe even play in high school, but there's so many valuable lessons to be learned. What did you learn kind of in those early days? You can remember back to what you learned in soccer when you were a little kid, and how you kind of carry that with you today.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just teamwork and learning to interact with others, and knowing that you sometimes have to defer to other people, or people are in a better spot, especially with soccer or basketball, they're in a better spot to take that shot or execute this or that. And so I think that really translates well to, your adult life, and especially in careers where pretty much all of us are working as part of a team, whether leading it or as a, as just a lower member of the team. And so I think just building those skills early and often, and growing through that is just really beneficial for later in life.
Yeah, because kind of like on a soccer field, you got those that kind of charge and are the offense and some of the defense, and you've got the goalies and stuff like that. And then you got those two guys on the side that just are gazelles. They just run the whole time.
Yeah, you just ping a long ball up to them. But yeah, like there's a bunch of diversified roles. Everybody kind of has their role, and to a certain degree, everybody has the most important job on the team. And so just making sure everyone's pulling their weight and having that belief, really translates. And I think learning those skills and reinforcing that throughout your formative years is really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah, because really, once you, like you said, once you get into your adult life, you essentially have like a little soccer team that's got to maintain these facilities, and you've got your people that are in charge of maintaining the grass and fertilizing, and you got those that are maybe in charge of setting up special events, and everybody's got their own little group of skill sets that they're good at. And so now, tell me about your early days into the Parks. Like, what was your first job into Parks and Rec?
Yeah. I really like to tell the story of how I even found out about this career field. Growing up, my parents worked at a company that had an on-site wellness facility. And I spent a lot of time after school there and kind of got to know the guy that managed it. And I remember thinking, like, this seems like a pretty cool job. He literally has a window in his office that looks out on the gymnasium. And I was like, that seems like a really great place to work.
That's cool.
And so I got to know him a little bit. And when I went to school, I went to the University of Oklahoma. I was like, kind of my goal was that I was never really into the sciences side of things, your personal, PT or PA or pre-dent, any of that kind of stuff. And then I ended up at the University of North Texas for my master's. And while I was there, the kinesiology program was housed with the Parks and Recreation leisure services field. So I started taking a lot of electives there, got a part-time job with the city of Southlake here in the DFW area. And yeah, just really kind of fell in love with it, enjoyed the immediacy of seeing what you're doing impacting the community. And kind of from there, got into full-time work with the City of Carrollton almost 11 years ago.
Oh, wow. So you've been at Carrollton for 11 years?
Yes. I actually, my 11-year anniversary is April 13th. So
coming up.
Yeah.
Now, what was your first full-time job?
Yeah. So I was in our athletics division. And my main roles were kind of renting our athletic fields. We have 38 between baseball, softball, soccer, football, multi-purpose, as well as kind of doing our smaller kind of aquatic events. We only have a seasonal aquatic facility from May to Memorial Day to Labor Day. And so running our pass holder parties, our swim in cinema, then at the end of the year, our pooch pool party for the dogs. So I did a lot of that. It's a really cool event where, after the humans are done swimming for the year, before we shut everything down, we tell everybody to bring out their dogs and let them have fun running around. And it's a great time. We have some little small events, tell them dress up, have some, for a while, before we did some renovations of the pool, we had like a little 2-foot training pool that we would get the big dogs and have they would have a retrieval timed contest. But it's always well attended, and the dogs are just having so much fun running around, and just it's a great time. So that's what I did initially. And like I said, I did that for a couple of years, and that was I think it was a good entry point into kind of the career. I really got to learn the city from driving around a lot to see our fields and things like that. I think that was really beneficial.
Yeah. What were some of so as you start in your early career in Parks and Rec, what were some of the skills that you noticed? Oh, wow, I got to get good at this, whether it's communication or something. And what was that journey look like? Yeah,
communication was definitely the big thing. Dealing with all number of kinds of people interested in renting our fields, from just all different, learning how to tell people like, oh, sorry, this isn't available, or we have rain, or you've been bumped because the youth league. So like just really developing those communication skills. And, when I first started out, I felt like I had to run certain responses by my supervisor before I just sent it, just because I didn't want to, step out of line and set off some big chain reaction of getting people involved to respond to a community member.
Yeah.
So I think just honestly that, and then time management as well, of just processing things timely, especially when the spring season rolled around, everybody's requesting their baseball field practices at the same time. And so just really having a system to work through that, I think, was really what set me up for success as I went through those first like 6 months to a year of that role.
Yeah. And so how long, you said you were 6 months to a year in that role? How long did you sit in that role?
I was in that role for about 2 years. And then I pivoted to overseeing our fitness programming. And that was really my first chance to kind of be involved in kind of large scale or medium scale projects or purchases with the city, as far as our replacing fitness equipment annually. I feel like we do a really good job of putting some of the money back into our facilities for our members in the community, as far as reinvesting some of their membership funds to always, every 5 to 6 years, the equipment's due. So hopefully not as many things are breaking. So that was my first experience kind of getting into that management of that and connecting with vendors and things like that.
And so that's essentially, you're running like a workout club that has like the treadmills and the ellipticals. And so as stuff kind of ages out, you got to replace it. So this is your first time experiencing that?
Yeah. So, some asset management involved with that. And the other thing that was kind of unique with it was across 3 different facilities. We have 2 kind of multi-gen facilities and then a senior center. And so I was over the equipment, all of those. And so while, the usage varies or the needs of each facility are different, like at our senior center, we don't have bodybuilders in there. So we don't need a bunch of squat racks and, even heavy dumbbells. We have light dumbbells. And so they just figuring out what they need to be successful in reaching their fitness goals there compared to our, 20-year-olds that are working out at our other 2 facilities. Just kind of figuring out those nuances.
Now, what's your method back then, what was your method to kind of pick through all the different types of equipment that you can buy?
There's a lot out there, honestly. And we've used a few different vendors through the years. And honestly, to me, and this is kind of what I feel with like any vendor I deal with nowadays, especially, is like how they treat me or like what their communication like with me goes a long way to whether I kind of want to use their product. But initially, just kind of, I would go to other rec centers or some of the universities in the area that had multiple brands and just kind of test things out, see what the new stuff was. If they happen to be at a show, go check it and talk to them there and just really get a feel for their full line of offerings. We've never really been so committed to one brand or other. We want to find the best fit for whether it be build quality, different type of options, what the equipment is like, just to provide the best experience.
Yeah. And these aren't small price tags. What was the kind of average spend for a year? And then for a piece of equipment, what's kind of the range of this equipment?
So I would say most years we spend about 200,000 or more. Every once in a while, a little bit less, just if it's kind of like I mean, treadmills, 10 grand, depending on the bells and whistles, ellipticals about that, strength is a little cheaper, 4,000 to 6,000, just kind of depending on what it is you are getting or how they have, different levels of commercial. And so which size you need or dual function. There's a lot of options these days. And it's fun to sift through some of that. Like this year, we actually did stuff at all 3 of our facilities. And I think our total spend was close to 250 for the year. And that, of course, how we fund that is we take a portion of every membership sold and it's put into a capital account that just sits there for this one purpose only. And that's been really helpful that we don't then have to go to council or management to ask for money each year to do this. We just know it's there and we just tell that, then we just submit it for approval. Like, hey, this is what we're going to do, but we already have the money. And they're like, cool, love it.
Oh, fantastic. Now, what do y'all do with the old equipment? Do y'all kind of trade horses and kind of put it to some of the newer, older facilities that might have nothing and have something, or just kind of
sometimes we share with our fire department. If they're looking for some stuff for some of their firehouses, we'll let them have a treadmill or a bike or a squat rack or something like that. But most of the time, just like you would with your car, you just trade it in, get a little bit of money to put towards the new stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't put too big of a dent, but hey, it gets it out of the facility and you get a little bit of something for it.
Right. Yeah. And from the outside looking in, you'd never realize that this is going to be part of your major job description when you're in college. You're like, yeah, I'm going to be like buying and selling workout equipment.
Yeah, I know. Seriously.
Is there anything else in that job description that you did during that time?
That was mostly it. I did work. My boss was the kind of customer service supervisor who oversaw all of our front desk attendants. So I did was his kind of right-hand person as well on a lot of backup as far as kind of being a lead for when he was out, or just he was really good about kind of giving me chances to learn and grow and experience some of those things to prepare me for that supervisor role when and if one became available either with Carrollton or with somewhere else. And so that was kind of my other main focus was learning our rec software in and out and just kind of how to manage people.
What rec software do you still use the same rec software?
Yes, we've been with Vermont Systems Rec Track for 20 years or so now.
Fantastic.
Still use it. Yeah.
Now, did you know even in those early days that you wanted to kind of move up to a more management, superintendent role, or maybe even a director one day?
Yeah, I think after my first couple of years, I was like, this is and I think a lot of it was also the people that worked around me in Carrollton, and I'd seen that there was a lot of growth within Carrollton itself. And I knew we still kind of were doing some growing in our department. We weren't kind of fully matured out yet. And so were going to be some new opportunities. And I really enjoyed the work. I know everybody likes to give when you meet somebody new for the first time, you're like, oh, I'm in Parks and Rec. They're like, oh, is it like the TV show? We've all heard that 400 times. Yeah. And so I still kind of feel like, I still say this today when people ask me, it's like, I have fun. I have fun at work. It's not yes, I have an office, but it doesn't feel like a prison. It's fun. I have right outside my office, I got people playing ping pong or pool or playing video games, and then 20 steps down, I got a gymnasium where who knows what's going on in there, basketball or pickleball, one of those. So I think it was just, once I got into and around it, I was just like, this is awesome. Everybody has tough days at work, but like very rarely do I find myself not excited to come to work. I just love that. And
so then what was your next role that you
so in the middle of COVID, when we were all shut down, I became the customer service supervisor. And so that was real fun to negotiate weird hours and closures and not letting staff overlap just to try to keep people healthy and so we could operate. And so just immediately going from supervising no one to 25, 18, 20-year-olds that are, have their own, everybody's negotiating this pandemic and things. So that was a tough learning curve. But I really feel like it set me up for success and really a lot of trial by fire and just having to deal with this once and hopefully a lifetime situation that I think has really prepared me. And I learned a lot from that I continue to put into practice today. And so, like I said, and the way we do it is instead of kind of doing it by facility, any of our front desk people can work at any of our 3 facilities. So we kind of have that cross training. They're all basically the same. There's a few nuances with the senior center just because of the clientele, but otherwise it's the same job. And it does help. It is nice from a flexibility scheduling standpoint of plugging people around. But there could be some drawbacks with just that lack of consistency of people seeing the same faces or things like that. But yeah.
The more I cover this industry, I'm like, this has got to be like a PhD level program as far as skill acquisition and just personal growth, because on day one, there's so much to learn. And there's so many parts of parks, and like you could do aquatics for a decade and that wouldn't prepare you at all to manage the sports fields or to do a special event, or maybe some of it's a little overlapping, but you really just have a mountain. If you want to go all the way up in leadership, you have a mountain of skills that you just have to learn on the job. Trial by fire, drink from the fire hose.
And I think that's some of the best way, honestly, is just to learn by doing. And especially I was really, like I said, been thankful that the people that have always supervised me have given me those opportunities to succeed, or even the latitude to fail in some regards to really grow and become a better leader.
Yeah. And I'm not sure the chaos will ever stop because there's always a city manager that's throwing some farmer's market that you've never done before on your plate.
Yeah, somebody
Yeah.
goes somewhere, sees something, and they're like, "Oh, we need to do that." Yeah, no,
Right.
they'll never.
Right.
That'll never stop anywhere. Yeah,
Yeah. It's just managing chaos every day.
yeah.
Okay. So then now let's talk about your current job, what you have today and what you do.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I'm the recreation superintendent. That means I oversee all of the day-to-day operations of our recreation system. So facilities, programming lines, and then all of the teams that kind of make that happen. I haven't mentioned yet, but we also have a nature center and a historic home property that we directly take care of. And so for me, my focus is really on just kind of evolving the department and innovating, whether that be in esports or other technology. In the inclusion side, we have a really great adaptive program. We've actually just not quite a year been running this program called the Adaptive Sports Accessibility Program, which helps organizations that haven't traditionally had access to space or resources. And then really kind of transforming our outdoor programming to take advantage of our nature center and preserve, to just kind of, yes, we're in a landlocked concrete jungle of Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, but that we still have these kind of nature areas that people can get out and explore right in your backyard. Yeah. And then obviously more of the behind the scenes stuff is just operating responsibly, looking at making sure that we're balancing cost recovery with delivering our high quality, accessible services to the community, and just creating opportunities for everyone in Carrollton to connect and feel like they belong in our spaces.
Yeah. Every time somebody uses the word inclusion, I'm like, no, we're not talking about, what the politics say inclusion is.
Right.
We're trying not to leave out community members that reside in our community that we don't have a program for. So is there anything else you can say around that to kind of add a little clarity?
Yeah. I think one thing we really try to prioritize in Carrollton is, like you said, having something and trying to reach everyone. You can't, it's at least give them put it in their court of like, if they want to be involved or not, but really try to reach those communities that maybe have been hesitant to participate in things, whether it be because of a financial barrier. We have a scholarship program that can help offset some costs. We do offer a lot. We try to run a nice balance of free programming in addition to paid programming, just because Parks and Recreation is everybody's entry point for most things, or it's a way to experience it. And, I think ultimately 90% of the people that live in wherever you live, like I'm thinking about the city I live in, 90% of my interaction is with something park and rec managed. Obviously the roads is the big exception, but whether it be a park or a facility, even just driving, you see the medians, most of those are maintained by parks staff. And so I think it's just, some people just don't realize, park rec, they're just fun, no, but we really touch and are kind of what provides that face of the city or community that you're in. I think it goes a long way to shaping people's thoughts of your city or community that that you represent.
And as far as inclusion goes, it's not hard to exclude people from like the 4th of July celebration. Obviously everybody understands anybody can attend and watch the fireworks, or maybe like just an open park that's just pretty that you can walk through. But that if Parks and Rec doesn't actually put effort and intentionality into, our handicapped children or, our special needs or like the poorer community, if you don't actually put the work in, then they just get left behind. It's not something as easy as like a 4th of July celebration when it comes to making sure there's something for everybody in our community.
Yeah, we realized that, speaking of the inclusion and adaptability side, we realized that we had a lot of things that we're focusing on more like people with kind of developmental issues or kind of those. And it's like we were kind of missing the physical people with physical disabilities. And so that's one thing that we've tried to pivot and offer a nice mixture across the spectrum of adaptive to really reach and provide opportunities for everyone in that community specifically. Right.
Because really everybody in some form or fashion is paying some food tax or some property tax or some wage tax. And so they might you might have a mom that has a little kid in a wheelchair, and through her paycheck, she is paying taxes, but the city is offering nothing for a child with a disability. And so that's when it's like, hey, these people are pouring into the system. They reside in our community. What can we do to kind of help them out a little bit?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so we're at the halfway point. What we're going to do is we're going to play a couple promos on the state events. By the way, one of the greatest state associations is TRAPS. I'm sure you've been there before. It is a machine.
It's a great time. We know how to throw a party in Texas.
That's right. Go big or go home. That's Texas's slogan.
Yeah, that's right.
Or another one is, if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing.
That's right.
And I think I've been to, probably in the last 15 years, maybe about 10 or 11 of the last TRAPS events, and they are just amazing. It's a great community.
Yeah.
So we just recently attended two of the other big states. In January, we attended IRPA, which is Illinois. Man, they are like leading the pack here. I think they had like 5,000 people show up and like 400 vendors. I'm like, this is like NRPA up in Chicago.
Say, yeah.
And it was cold. I don't know why they choose January. It was like -8 when we got there, but so we did that, and we created a little promo for us attending that event. And then just a few weeks ago, we attended the one in California, another great state, huge population, and they love their Parks and Rec system. So
nice.
Joby, why don't you go ahead and play those two promos on those two state events? And by the way, if you're running a state event, if you're an executive director, first of all, thank you for all the work that you're doing. And we would love to show up one day and kind of do what we did with IRPA and CPRS. And so anyway, Joby, go ahead and play those, and we'll come back and finish up our conversation with Justin.
It started with a shared purpose, a vision to bring people together, to inspire, to learn, and to lead. And at CPRS Conference 2026, that vision came to life. From every conversation to every connection made, this wasn't just an event, it was a community in motion. Ideas were challenged, perspectives were expanded, and leaders stepped forward, ready to shape the future of parks and recreation. At DPRS Media Network, we had the privilege of capturing it all: the passion, the innovation, the stories that deserve to be seen and heard. Because these moments don't just stay here, they ripple outward, into communities, into programs, into lives. To the organizers, the speakers, the partners, and every single attendee, thank you for showing up, for sharing your voice, and for being part of something bigger than all of us. This is more than a conference. This is a movement. And DPRS Media Network will continue to tell your story every step of the way. We'll see you at the next one. This year, we didn't just attend an event. We became part of something bigger. IPRA 2026 brought together leaders, innovators, and community builders, all united by one mission: to strengthen parks, recreation, and the people they serve. For DPRS Media Network, it was an honor to join IPRA 2026 and take part in meaningful, real-time conversations, capturing stories and amplifying voices that matter. To IPRA, thank you for creating a space where collaboration thrives and the future of parks and recreation is shaped together. We extend our deepest gratitude to Amelia and all our partners who made these live interviews possible. IPRA 2026 wasn't just an event, it was a reminder that when communities connect and stories are shared, impact follows. From all of us at DPRS Media Network, thank you, IPRA. Thank you, partners and sponsors. We're honored to stand with you and excited for what's next.
All right, man, always have a blast attending those annual events. Maybe before we go into esports, let's talk a little bit about your experience going to the TRAPS.
Yeah. Well, the first one I ever went to was in Galveston, and it also coincided with Mardi Gras. So that was
That was a
probably,
blast.
probably a bad one to start with because I don't know that any could live up to that.
Right.
But no, it's always a great time. And I've had the opportunity to speak at a Traps a couple years ago when it was in Frisco. And yeah, I always love going and connecting with the rest of the professionals across the state. Obviously, I feel like in the DFW area, in the North region of Traps, we do a pretty good job of getting together a couple times a year through various things. But nice to connect with people from the rest of the state as well. And then on the national scale, I love going to NRPA as well. Orlando was a great time last year.
Oh yeah.
Made some great connections with some people out of Colorado that we still talk college football all the time on it, afterwards. And I have had the opportunity to speak at NRPA in Dallas on esports and then I'm actually so.
Oh, fantastic. And now, so you've been to the NRPA and really Traps is almost like 5 states. And then they have like their own little, when do y'all do y'all's kind of regional meetings? Y'all do that like 4 times a year, huh?
Yeah. I really don't know what the rest of the region, North region, we do like a workshop kind of one day thing in the fall, I think usually November. And then there's some like quarterly activities as well. As far as the North region is concerned, I know.
Yeah. Because really, Dallas metro area is bigger than most states in population. That North Texas is almost like a whole country by itself.
Indeed, yes. Yeah. Especially when you got to cross it, it's just like, oh man.
Oh my God. Well, we actually drove to California from New Orleans, and probably 14 hours of our drive was through North Texas.
Yes. Yeah, it's a long, long way to cross.
Yeah. And then when you get into West Texas, it's just like open sky as far as you can see.
Nothing there.
Yeah. Lots of tumbleweeds. All right, so let's get into esports. Why don't you kind of just, for those that aren't familiar with esports in general, and then we can go to define, what is esports in Parks and Rec. So how would you tell somebody what esports is that's just not familiar with it?
Yeah, it's, electronic games, video games, just on kind of a different scale. It's esports, I think, kind of is more encompassing is the kind of more competitive or side of it, as far as playing against people across the country, across the world. It's just kind of a different version. It's, it's not just like, if I'm sitting at home playing my Xbox, that's not necessarily sports. It's more of when you add that kind of competitive element with someone else is kind of when it transforms into kind of that esports.
Now my brother used to play, I guess about, God, when is this? Like maybe 15 years ago, there was like a StarCraft, I think. And he would meet and have these runs. They would call them runs at night. And like 8 hours straight of just like trying to kill your enemy and not get destroyed or something like that.
Yeah, I remember in my dormitory at OU, down the hall, I had a guy that he was like a competitive Xbox player and for Halo, and I was just kind of like, didn't know you could really do that when I was, this was 17 years ago or whatever, 16 years ago. I was just kind of like, didn't even know that was really a thing back then. I was like, I knew because of ESPN, I knew like people played Madden, but I didn't really think about it for other games.
Yeah. And some of our greatest entrepreneurs started out in just esports. I remember there was this one venture capitalist I used to follow because he just made great content. He's a great investor and always found these founders that were just amazing. And he was playing, he was really good. I think this tennis game that was everybody played, and he started playing with this guy, and he just could not beat him. And he's like, do you rank on the list? He was actually #1 in the world at the time, and his name was Jack Dorsey, and he is founder of Twitter.
Yes,
he's like, this guy just does not lose and can't be beat, and so he's like seriously. Anything he touched, and he was one of the earliest investors in Twitter when it first started. Yeah. Well, now it's X. Elon bought it and stuff. But
Blue Sky now is in his, I think.
Yeah. And I think Elon Musk himself is like a big time gamer and games a lot.
Yeah.
So what are some of the games today that are really popular? Like, I don't even know what the top 5 games are anymore.
Yeah, I think it kind of varies a little bit, but I mean, you have a lot of staples that have been around for a number of years. Like Fortnite's still a very popular game, even though it's been out for, I don't know, we're coming up on 10 years or 8 to 10 years or so. Obviously Call of Duty is another really big one. You got to be careful with this one, but Roblox is a real popular game with all ages, especially, kids. You just get a little wild on Roblox. You just kind of have to be careful with that one. And then some of the more competitive titles, Valorant is a big team one. And then there's a bunch of new stuff that comes up here and there that's more of your kind of role-playing games and things like that. But
yeah, shout out to one of my sons, Pete. He was his name was Fast Pete 4, and you would be getting your lunch handed to you by a 4-year-old. And he had all these like adults he was playing, and he's just has this amazing type speed and stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy how good these kids at a young age can just dominate a game.
I know. I've always been bad at video games, even though I've been playing them since I was like 8.
Right.
I remember getting a Game Boy when I was like 7, and it's just like, it's never clicked with me.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people don't realize that this is actually a potential career path similar to like a D1 athlete, and that there are massive shows. Have you ever been to any of these big gaming shows?
I have not. We one of my somebody that works for me, Cody, who actually helped with develop all of our esports stuff and kind of directly oversees it now. He's at certain times in his life has been a ranked Call of Duty player. So I think he's attended a few. I don't know if he's ever played any massive shows, but he's attended a few of those, but I myself have not. But being fortunate here in Dallas, we do have a couple of esports teams that are headquartered here. So we have had the opportunity through developing our esports program and centers to go visit some of those kind of top end operations.
Yeah, I remember one time I was driving through Dallas, and I had a Tesla at the time, and one of the Tesla chargers was it was, maybe you know where this is. It was like a big like indoor stadium, like a big basketball stadium or something like that. And it was next to like an amusement park, and they had a big Tesla charging network in there. And so while my Tesla was charging, it looked like there was a big event going, and I walk in and I just see like maybe 300 computers and desktop, and they were setting the stadium up for some massive competition.
That could have been the esports stadium in Arlington, which is next to Six Flags.
Yeah,
and also it's also next to where the Cowboys play and the Rangers.
That's it.
play.
That was it.
Yeah.
That's exactly where it was.
Yeah, the University of Texas at Arlington, they built a esports arena a couple of years ago, and they host massive tournaments and events there. It
was almost like you're attending some big MMA fight, and you've got all these like ranked professionals, and they walk in the door, and it looks like some little 15-year-old kind of nerd that's just dominating this thing, and he's got like the jersey, and I'm like, oh, and this kid's making like a couple $100,000 a year on awards and stuff like that.
I know, yeah, it's insane, yeah. I could have worn we made esports jerseys for our program. I could have worn mine today, but I didn't think
you got one. You got one in there next to you?
It's not. I can't reach it. It's somewhere in my closet or something. But
I want to do an esports show. Maybe we can find a couple of the people that are running esports, and everybody can bring their jersey. And in the early days, we wanted to do like a Saturday esports competition where we started to connect a lot of the different Parks and Rec that have these kind of esports centers, and we can kind of compete like North Texas against Oregon, some of the other big. Phoenix, I think, has another big esports. So what was your general talk when you gave at NRPA about esports? Because I know a lot of Parks and Rec departments are like, fish out of water. What do we do here? What's our role?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely was our director when we first kind of pitched the idea to him back in 2021. So really what our presentation was about was how we got it started, how we got it off the ground, and then kind of here's some information for you guys to take to your stakeholders, back to your communities, to try to see how maybe you can implement it. Blueprint was in the title of our presentation. And so, I mean, after that, I think we've probably talked to over 50 different counties, municipalities, districts about esports. And I know a handful of them have actually gotten live with their programs. We actually randomly were talking to some people in Abilene, Texas yesterday that are getting ready to go live with their esports center here in a couple of weeks. So like we're still, I mean, our big thing is just trying to get the more buy-in across Texas, across the country, that we can then maybe parlay that into some bigger events. Because the nice thing with esports is unlike basketball, you don't have to be in the same place to play each other.
Right.
You just need an internet connection, and you can hop on and we can be, in a competition against somebody in Phoenix or somebody in New York, or Georgia, wherever. So, I mean, to me, that's one of the best things about esports is you can just really connect and kind of have that country or even globe wide kind of competition.
Yeah. Yeah. I always envisioned, like, imagine kind of how basketball is, where you have like the Sweet 16 and the Final Four, and you have these brackets, and these are the top 50 cities in America, and you narrow it down to the championship where you've got like, North Texas versus whatever. And I always thought that would be, and like you said, you don't have to really try. You just go to your local esports center and show up and compete. And
we do host though. And actually we do have we do host a number of kind of quarterly in-person tournaments as well. Like this weekend, we have what we call our spring showcase. And this year we kind of mixed the titles up. This year, I think we're really focusing on kind of like Super Smash Brothers, Fortnite, and then Pokemon. And we're actually officially licensed. We partnered with a card shop here locally to be officially licensed. So we're on Pokemon's website as like an official. So people can play in our tournament to earn points to go to larger Pokemon regionals championships. So we're really hoping that helps kind of expand our kind of reach across different titles and bring in more people and more eyeballs to Carrollton itself.
Oh yeah. That's just, it really is a and I don't think it's going away. I think if anything it's just growing year on year. Yeah,
no, definitely. So I think you mentioned it. We have 2 centers. We opened our first one in 22, and we have 20 computers at each, so a total of 40 across our system. And it's been a slow burn a little bit. We've done a lot of partnering with the school district. We have one of the high schools is right down the street from our first center. And so we really partnered with them a lot to provide a space that wasn't on ISD internet that was giving them a lot of troubles. So, they really appreciated having speed of their internet connection. So we really partnered a lot with them. And then, like I said, I've really made an effort to have these tournaments that has really gotten a lot of buy-in from even a lot of universities in Texas. I think one of my favorite things to say is that one of the high schools in Carrollton, they were playing Valorant, which is a 5-on-5 game, and they defeated a team from Texas A&M that drove up to compete in our tournament. So that's been awesome. I literally live right next to University of Texas at Dallas, and they have a really big esports program, and they always come out and play in our tournaments. And then as we got in, when we opened it at our second center in the kind of the end of 24, it's at our largest facility and our busiest rec center. And so that's where we've really put an emphasis on kind of more of the daily play for the kids after school, or kind of put a focus more on some of the using it more for programming, such as like a graphic design class, or some of those other avenues that need computers that are kind of adjacent to kind of esports world to help, like you said, turn this into a career path, whether it be competitive gaming or just using some of those skills learned from using computers or playing, getting real technical and good with hand-eye coordination on a mouse and keyboard and translating that into some type of career. Yeah. And to kind of what you said with the high school versus the college, I wouldn't doubt that if there was some kind of world championship that it wouldn't surprise me if there was some group of 6th graders that won it. Yeah, seriously. They can hold their own. And that's honestly, that's what I love about esports is, you don't need age groups. Everybody's the same. It's a skill, it's skill level at that point. It's, whereas like, your traditional sports, it's all, you need to have you don't want adults playing 6-year-olds because somebody's going to get hurt. Right. But with esports, you can have a 9-year-old going up against a 45-year-old and probably the 9-year-old's going to beat them. Right. We had that problem in our family. We had the Super Smash Brothers and it was always all my other kids, like 7 or 8 kids against Peter, and they could never beat him. Like he would beat everybody. And they made a rule that he can't select Bowser as because if he selected Bowser, it was on game over. Game over. They gave him some like little fairy queen or something that was hard to play. Let's chat about kind of what's the setup, what's the cost, the hardware setup, what's kind of a minimum that you would need to just say, if we're going to do it, this is the space we need, this is the internet connection we need, this is stuff we use. Definitely the biggest thing is having a dedicated space, and if your city if you can work this out, having kind of dedicated network to it to have a gig is preferable. And then as far as like stations, we like to do them in groups of 5, just because any sort of, if you're trying to do anything other than just kind of like daily play, 5 is kind of would cover pretty much any team based game. Some use a few less, some use a little bit, 5, but nobody really goes over. I think there's one game that maybe is 6, but like, I don't know how popular it is these days, but anyway, yeah. So I would say if minimum of 5, I think is a good place. So then do that in groups of 5. And then with computer equipment, it's all good. It's kind of like your iPhone or whatever phone brand you like to use, where they come out with a new one every year, but if you're using last year's model, even 2 years ago, it's still a very solid piece of equipment. Yes, there's a newer Shiner that's incrementally faster, better, or whatever. But it's all kind of the same. And so you can really work within any budget. And then, like I said, monitors, it's, you don't need a top of the line monitor. You just kind of need a certain size, kind of that 24 to 27 inch range. And then kind of, it's more about the resolution and the hertz than like the brand or what it looks like.
Right.
And then peripherals, just, honestly doesn't matter too much there. There's so many brands, Razer, HyperX, Steel Series, that kind of stuff. So those are all roughly the same. It's mostly that comes down to preference. Yeah. And then, I mean, the thing that everybody that works for us loves is the chairs. The chairs are so comfortable.
Oh yeah. It's like a lazy boy.
Yes. They're amazing. Yeah. So, and then if you want to trick, like we've spent some time putting money into kind of making the space feel a certain way, but you don't have to do that. You
LED lights or something like that.
Oh yeah. We've got LED lights that can do all different kinds of, they're computer controlled. You can do anything you want with them. It's probably a little overkill, but at the time we were working with what was just an old kind of classroom kind of room, and it's like, well, this looks kind of boring, so we put some graphics up, painted it black, added the cool lights. So you can get away if you kind of, I would say a low end number is probably like 15 to 1700 per station, depending on what all you want to include in that. Now, if you're talking then factoring in like a desk and chair and all that kind of stuff, you might be looking at more closer to 2,500 to just fully get everything you would need for like each station. And then that'll get you on your way. And then the biggest thing is just kind of, there's different companies out there that will help you kind of lock down the computer to only allow certain people, like you can only access certain things. You can also charge, or that's how you get access. We sell, for memberships, each time you buy a membership, you get so many hours just included. But then there also is a way to just come in and buy daily hours that you just go on your account that you can use. And it's very low dough, because the way we kind of sold this, what our vision for this was access. Yeah. It's, unlike most sports where, basketball, you just need a hoop and a ball, Right. Esports, there's a little bit higher cost to entry, and that is often a barrier for a lot of people, and just being able to provide that for those that might not be able to at home was really our goal. Yeah. And I think we've been thriving in that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's almost like if you think of it kind of like football. I mean, certainly you can play football with no helmet, no pads, and a grass field with nothing. You could pull that off.
Yeah. The 1920s.
That's right. our childhood. But for them to play it properly, you got to have the ball, they got to have the pads, and then maybe stripe the field, and then maybe have the logo and all that kind of stuff. And you have to kind of create that environment, and the city kind of pays for all that. Mm-hmm. And so in a similar way, a lot of these kids could not afford to spend $2,500 on their setup and have a place. And then while you got the place, like you said, if you can spend a little extra on some LED lights and make it feel like this is their kind of home, it really is a much better experience.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
Now, is there anything as far as that's different than what we see when we're just doing office work as far as the setup? Obviously, you need like a headphone setup. Is there like some kind of special mouse that they like or use or something like that?
For what we just, I mean, everybody's kind of personal. Like when we have tournaments, people will bring their own mouse and keyboards a lot of times because they like things a certain way and feel. We have run a few tournaments where we've put it out and made it known that, like, because it takes time to swap all that out, and then you got to go in and adjust settings. So for some tournaments, we say, yeah, bring whatever, we'll swap it out. But otherwise, sometimes we just say, no, you got to use our equipment, because we have good equipment. It's all a personal preference thing.
Right.
And these, I would say, gamers are very, as much as like baseball players are superstitious or like to have their wraps and their, all their
Right.
stuff, like gamers are the same way, and that they
Right.
they want a certain feel, and if it's then, so that's why they want to bring their own stuff and use that. And so most of the time we accommodate that.
Yeah. So I guess it's similar to tennis. Like, we provide everything, but you bring your own shoes and your own racket.
Yeah.
And then kind of personalized.
Yeah.
Weapon of choice, I guess you could say.
Indeed.
So what are the problems that people are saying, as you give these talks, people that might come up to you, what are the kind of issues that they're facing?
Yeah. One thing that we really haven't run into, but we've heard about it from some other cities, including Abilene, like I said, who I was talking to yesterday, is we've never really been told we can't offer certain games. Really the only one that, and we weren't going to anyway, but the only one that has ever explicitly been mentioned to us was Grand Theft Auto, even though it's one of the most popular games, but totally get it. But we are able to kind of age restrict all the games, and we offer the parents to have a permission slip to sign to allow certain, if you want them to play mature or teen, or not mature, but like teen, but they're not quite at the teen level, then we allow that. So that really hasn't been an issue. I think people think that was going to be like, that was a lot of the conversation when we first started going it. And it's like, once we told them kind of how we were going to gatekeep that, it was all, oh, okay, cool. It hasn't really been an issue for us. We've not, outside of, I think, one keyboard, we've been, like I said, we've had one of our centers open for almost 4 years. No one has gotten mad and broken anything, knock on wood,
Right.
I think you see all those viral clips online of, somebody smashing a keyboard or throwing a controller.
Yeah.
We have not experienced that at all. Which has been, a blessing, honestly, but we have somebody in there that's monitoring the room. And so I think that helps.
Yeah.
We have a pretty not strict code of conduct, but we have a code of conduct that, we uphold for everything in our facilities, but, especially for esports, just because there is high value equipment. But most of the things that have broken have just been through the natural course of using them versus not negligence. And then I don't know that we've really had anything stolen either. Maybe a mouse has disappeared for a little bit once or twice, but those are some of the questions we get asked about a lot. And then of course the big question a lot of people ask, because it's obviously a big thing in working for government and things like that, is paying for it / recouping your investment. And
right.
I don't know. And I think the city is okay with this. Like we're never going to recoup our initial investment in this, but our goal is just to kind of sustain our kind of yearly, like we would with any programming line,
right?
Just kind of sustain to a certain level, whatever kind of goal we've established for ourselves for cost recovery, just try to meet that. And we have been kind of achieving that for the last few years through a couple of different ways. We rent one of the most successful things we do is we rent the space out for birthday parties. And so that's a real easy way to make a couple $100 on a Saturday.
Oh, that's cool.
To kind of offset maybe a lower priced program that we run, like for spring break or something.
Yeah. Now, has there ever been, like, hey, we're teaching our kids to be violent? I mean, look, your kid's village will get conquered. I promise you, they're going to lose. They're going to die.
I think it's from the people that are just uneducated on what really esports or gaming is, that just see it from the outside or see it from the negative news stories or things like that aren't active in it or don't have any experience firsthand. I think that's where most of that comes from. But anybody that's involved in it, I think, understands and knows that that's 9 times out of 10 just, not reality.
Now, have y'all ever had somebody come through y'all's program that actually ended up as like a pro esports person, or maybe worked for a game design company that kind of moved on to that, making a career out of it?
I don't know if one explicitly offhand. I think there's been a few of the people that have played in our tournaments and maybe that were like at the high school, things like that have gone on to play it, in university, but no one specifically that I know about to like promote.
Yeah, because it's always like, Michael Jordan went to my high school. kind of thing. And
Yeah.
eventually, because these, it seems like it's just growing and growing, and especially like in the other countries, like in Asia, you know,
Yeah.
it just seems that like it's huge over there across the world. And that
Mhm.
I noticed that my children were making friends and building community with people across the planet. Like it seems like
Yeah.
one kid was from North Carolina, and this kid was from England, and this kid was from Germany, and they just kind of all met on. It's a big online community, and it's global.
Yeah, we've had when kind of our first year, so we had a professional team out for like they were competing in a tournament locally, and they wanted a place to kind of practice and do some scrimming and get warmed up. And yeah, like that composite of that team was, I think there was like one American, one guy that was Dutch, somebody else was Canadian, English, you know, just
Right.
all over the world. And yeah, they were playing in our center.
Yeah. I can tell you one skill it has. I remember when Peter was probably around 7 or 8, we had a little family competition on typing speed, and his typing speed was like 92 words a minute, which is insane.
You guys know how to have fun.
That's it.
Typing contest.
That's right. Typing contest. And well, look, if the speed of your typing is determines whether you get conquered or not, you learn to get fast at it.
Oh yeah.
Well, man, I wish we had more time to talk about this. I'd love to do a show. Maybe we can go find a couple people like yourself that are big into esports and Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
We can do like a panel and just kind of discuss where the industry is and how it kind of intersects in Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. No, I've greatly appreciated being on this morning, or this afternoon now, I guess.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on the show and sharing your career path and your expertise in esports and stuff. And really appreciate what you're doing for your community. Keep up the great work.
All right. Thanks, Craig. Thanks for letting me be on this morning.
Yeah. Take care. Have a great day.
You too.
All right. Bye. All right. So that was, you know, when we first started the Daily Parks and Rec Show, one of the first shows that we attempted to create, we actually are very well connected with a lot of the esport community. And we had a vision of maybe trying to do something on Saturday. So maybe this might be a time for us to pick that ball up and run with it, and maybe at least just create a couple more episodes here on the Daily Parks and Rec Show focused on esports. Because I know a lot of communities see it. They see, you know, places like Carrollton that are really thriving and it's really taking off, and their community loves it and embraces it. And, you know, back on that topic of inclusion, you know, is there, I remember there was this little Instagram reel somebody sent me of this little girl in line to shoot basketball at the free throw line, and it was the worst shot you've ever seen. But then when she goes back to get in line, she's doing like ballet somersaults back to the back of the line of like, all right, this might be the world's worst basketball player, but this could be the next great, you know, gymnast or ballerina or stuff. And so I think when we're trying to say, what do we offer to our community, esports is just another way to say, is there maybe a future game designer that's maybe 10 years old that has no place to really kind of express himself or maybe do what he's great at. And so all he has is like a soccer team, and maybe he's horrible at soccer, but man, you give this guy in front of a gaming console and he's just like dominating. And so when we're building community, building programming, I think there's just another version of making sure that we're including all the different ways to have fun. And I've often heard that Parks and Rec is kind of the fun department, and it's where we actually experience and orchestrate play. And I think esports is just another way to express how we play, how we build community. And that's a little different. It's online and it's sitting in a chair, and it might not be running around. And I know that's important to Parks and Recreation, you know, to make sure that you're active and you're doing that kind of stuff. But like it or not, esports is here to stay. And some of the great entrepreneurs are gamers of the world, and there's certainly career paths, you know, building these games and designing these games, whether it's graphics design or doing the software behind the scenes and stuff. And so I think, especially with the world of AI coming in, game design and building and graphics design is just an exploding industry. I think year on year it just grows. It's not a stagnant industry. I remember me being a master electrician a long time ago. If you look at the world of electricians and the economy behind electrical work, it maybe grew by 1 or 2% a year. But some of these industries, like gaming, is growing by 3 and 4 times that amount each year, opening up new possibilities and new career paths. And so I think if Parks and Recs wanted to offer something similar to how a lot of Parks and Rec departments are offering things with STEM and with performing arts, I think esports is just kind of one of those things, one of those areas that we can support. And what that support looks like, maybe just having a 20 by 20 room in your community center, setting up, like Justin said, spending $1,500 to $2,500 for all the little equipment. And then now they have a place to call home where they can come to your community center and build community and hopefully maybe build some life skills that they might be using the rest of their life. So really appreciate you coming on the show today, Justin, and sharing that with us and kind of highlighting what esports looks like in the Parks and Rec world. Okay, so immediately following this, I'll say immediately, in about 25 minutes, we are starting the Youth Sports Mastery Show. This is our oldest running show, aside from the one that we're on, the Leadership Series. It's been a weekly show for over a year now with our host, Aaron Locks, out of California, who is probably one of the most connected people in America when it comes to all things rec sports and youth sports and stuff like that. So, I mean, he's got an amazing network of athletic directors, professional athletes that he brings on the show, coaches. And so if you're interested in youth sports, which is a big chunk of what Parks and Rec does as far as programming, this is a great weekly show. And if there's somebody that you feel like is just doing amazing with rec sports, maybe you've seen them speak about youth sports or rec sports in one of your state conventions, try to get me their name, hit me up on LinkedIn, and we'd love to get them as a guest on that Thursday show. We're always looking to share what works, what doesn't work, and a lot of these decades of experience that some of these coaches have. And maybe they're doing a great job, similar to how Justin's doing a great job in Carrollton, but there's not a lot of esports stuff. There might be like somebody that's doing an amazing job running rec sports in their community that we'd love to highlight what they're doing and share that with the whole Parks and Rec community. Okay, and that runs every Thursday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. And then tonight at 5 p.m., we have our Young Professionals Network, which is every Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern. And I'm speaking with two people that are going to be more of a permanent host for that, because we're trying to basically highlight what it's like to start in the Parks and Rec industry with like your first 1 to 5 years. Now, it's not just about them. It's actually also about what if you're a college student that's pursuing a degree. So you're like 18 to 22 years old and you're pursuing a Parks and Rec degree. What is it like to learn at the university level about Parks and Recreation? Or what's it like to do an internship in Parks and Recreation while you're in college? And then also, if you're a professor that's teaching some of these degrees that kind of cater to the Parks and Rec industry, that's kind of the population we're looking at to have as guests on that show. So if you know of a great professor throughout America that teaches a Parks and Rec focused degree, we'd love to have that professor on the show so that he can tell us what he's teaching the students and kind of where he sees it going. Also, if you're like a college student, maybe we can have a couple of those on the show. Now, of course, if you're in the YPN network for NRPA or your local state, we'd love to have you as a guest on the show. And YPN does, NRPA does a great job with their YPN. I think they're coming up on their 10th year. If you are in NRPA and you're young, you're like either under 30 or you've only been in the industry for the first few years, you should definitely get involved in YPN. It's a great resource. They connect you to mentors. And then several of the states are on their 3rd or 4th year of having a YPN chapter within their state. So definitely it's a great way to get involved, to get connected with people of your own age, but also to get connected with like the experts or the people that have been at this career path for 20, 30 years. It's a great way for you to find a mentor and maybe help you on your journey into Parks and Recreation. And so that's going to be every Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. And then tomorrow we have our latest show, which is the Aquatics Life, and with our host Wesley King, and it's where we talk all things aquatics. I think this Friday's like our 4th show, but I mean, aquatics is just its own world inside the Parks and Rec world, and I've just been dying to create a weekly show on that. So big shout out to Wesley King finally coming on board as our show host there and helping us to produce that weekly show. That's going to be every Friday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. And then Monday, we start the whole thing again with all our other shows. So you can find us on LinkedIn. You can find this content on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, a LinkedIn page, and we have a YouTube channel with everything we've ever recorded. I think we're coming up on our 500th episode that we've recorded for the Parks and Rec industry, highlighting all the careers and all the different shows that we have. So please find us on YouTube. Please like and subscribe, because the more people that subscribe to the YouTube channel and LinkedIn page and that kind of stuff, we're just trying to get the message out there. If we look at DPRS Media Network as like the big megaphone that's getting the message out about Parks and Recreation, highlighting all the career paths and what's it like to be in Parks and Rec, similar to what you just saw with Justin. So hang tight, wait a few minutes, and then stay tuned for the Esports Mastery Show. And that'll be a wrap for today. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs. We're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product, growing your presence in public spaces, targeting cities, counties, or departments, DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion Parks and Rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move Parks and Rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.